Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Develop. I'm Chris Wooley, your host. So, we've got a special episode today where we're looking at perfecting your price list. And this episode is special for two reasons. Well, one, I'm both your host and your presenter today, so that's kind of fun and exciting. Get to dive into that deep topic. But the second one, this is a little bit different format for a webinar. If this is playing, this means that I'm still caught up in Mexico right now. This is my backup just in case my flight got delayed, and it looks like it did because you're watching it. So the format's just slightly different. You'll notice that the chat box is not available. But there is a question box. So if you, in the upper right-hand corner, click on that question box, you can type in your questions at any point in time during this presentation. And as soon as I get back, I'll review them and I'll make a follow-up video answering your questions. So we still have some interactive stuff here. I've got a ton of information to share with you. So I'm excited about it. So for those of you that are joining us for the very first time today, welcome to Let's Develop. So this is a webinar series every other week where we bring in top photographers across the country and we share information. So things that you want to know as a professional photographer, that's what we're looking at. And a special shout out to American Color Imaging. They're the ones that make this show possible. And if you stay till the end, I've got a special offer for you from ACI, so make sure you're watching out for that one. And everybody that's registered for this will also be eligible to win some of the door prizes that we have too. So very excited about that one. In case you've missed previous episodes, you can catch them all on ACI's website at acilab.com/let's-develop. Our last speaker, Brian Welsh, holy cow, on, in, and through. We're looking at marketing, sales, and giving back. And as always with Brian, he over-delivered. He gave us some amazing information about calendar management, balancing life, and generally how to make things work. So if you get a chance, go and check that one out. Holy cow. All right, so now we're officially ready to dive in on perfecting your price list. So if you're like most photographers, pricing's a bit scary. We're like, how do I know if I'm charging too much, if I'm charging too little? Is it appropriate for my market? Do I have the right format? Am I leaving money on the table? There's so much that comes to being a professional photographer, and I'm here to help you demystify pricing and figure out how to tweak your price list and maybe even figure out which style of price list is going to be appropriate for you. So let's kind of dive in on that. So here we have perfecting your price list. That's what we're here to do today, and we are going to do it. So first up, we got to figure out what is pricing. So is there some magic number that you need to be charging as a photographer to know that you've got the correct pricing down? And a way that I like to think about this is that your environment, the situation that you set up, and your business model all play into what appropriate pricing is. So I've got a little bit of a story because I think stories are kind of fun. So when I think about pricing, I like to look at Coca-Cola. Okay, so if we were to go to, say, a store, okay, and we can buy a 12-pack of Coke for a few bucks. So that cost per can is maybe what, like 50 cents? Something like that. Okay, so can of Coca-Cola, it's worth 50 cents. But if we change the environment just a little bit, let's say that we go to a vending machine. Okay, same exact can of Coca-Cola, and now it costs like $1. 50% price increase, we just change the environment that it's in. And this keeps going. Let's say that we go to a convenience store now. We might pay a couple of dollars, I think $2.50 or so for a bottle, 20 ounce of Coca-Cola. Sure, we get a little bit more volume, but that's like, what, 5 times the price of just a single can? Okay, we're starting to get up there. Now let's say that we go somewhere like a restaurant. Gonna have a burger. We order a Coca-Cola. This time it's coming in our soft drink container, so it's a glass that we have there, granted. But we might be paying a few bucks for that, $3, $4, $5 just for that beverage. Exact same thing. Now let's say that we're going to go to a venue, a concert, something like that. Now for that same bottle, or hey, we're going to go to Imaging USA and we've got the vending machines there. You're going to be paying like $5, $7 for a single bottle of Coca-Cola there. Okay, so we just looked at a whole bunch of different environments, exact same product. The formula, that's magic, proprietary. We're never going to know what's in that formula, but you know what? It all tastes the same. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to get that exact same Coca-Cola. But we went from like 50 cents for a serving of it all the way up to like $7 for a serving of it. Exact same thing. We just changed the environment, changed our need, and what we're looking at when it comes to getting that Coca-Cola. So what I want you to think about when you're trying to determine your pricing is, what are the other factors? It's not just about your photography. Are you good enough to charge for your photography? Hopefully, if you're in this business as a professional, yes, you are. But when we're looking at it, it's more about what environment are we setting up? What are the other factors that come together? Are they looking at photography just as I need a picture taken? Are they getting more out of that experience? Are you providing more for them? That can all affect dramatically the price that you charge and what the appropriate pricing is. Kind of cool, huh? Okay, so now that we're looking at that, so what is pricing? When we're coming down here, there's a lot of variables that come into that pricing format. So it's really helpful if we look at what your business model is. So are you selling that 12-pack of Coca-Cola? Are you at the high-end restaurant that's charging $7? Do we have our audience captivated, like trying to purchase something at an airport? They can't bring it in with them. They got to buy it from you. They're going to charge you more. So we've got a whole bunch of different business models that we can look at. Let's go over a couple of these pretty quick, just so that we can get this content down and start figuring out the specifics. So in the business model realm, first thing that we have is doing something that's going to be high volume, low dollar. So you're like, what does that mean? High volume, low dollar? Basically, that means that we are playing the volume game. This could be like doing school portraits, could be doing sports stuff, you could be doing headshots, anything that's within that realm where they don't necessarily care who is taking that picture. They just need to have that photograph. Okay, they're looking at you as a commodity. So in this one, we're all about getting that volume, more people coming through. We want more and more and more coming through, because the more people that come through, the more money that we make. And generally with this format, we're going to be charging less money per person, but we make it up in volume. Okay, so completely viable business model doing that high volume, low dollar. Up next, we've got a mid-volume, mid-dollar. So this is probably where a great majority of us fall. So this means that we're not necessarily super low dollar, and we're not super high dollar in terms of what we're charging, and we're not super low volume or super high volume. We're kind of middle of the road there. So we might be charging a few $100 or a few $1,000s for our sessions, and we might be doing a fair amount so that we've got some nice volume that's coming through. So this is a completely viable business model. This is something where we might see, like on the lower end of it, like a shoot and burn type approach, or on the higher end, we might see something where we're kind of catering to our clients a little bit more, providing somewhat of an experience for them. They're going to care who their photographer is, the quality that you provide at this level. So we're mid-volume, mid-dollar. Third one that we're going to be looking at is a low volume, high dollar. This one's all about the experience, okay? So you're taking on fewer clients, but you're charging a whole lot more money for this experience. It's not just the quality of what you bring, but the entire experience that goes around it. It's the difference between like an Applebee's and a high-end steakhouse. Okay, so we're getting completely different experience. Yes, the quality is going to be higher too, and we're going to pay a lot more, but you're going to get it because you want that experience as we're going through. So as we're coming up with what the appropriate type of pricing is, I want you to think about where you fall in this. What is your business model? If we're going to be doing commodity-based stuff, we got to be prepared for that high volume. So we don't want to be answering a lot of questions, explaining a bunch of stuff going through. Just like if we're a high dollar thing, we don't want them to feel rushed. We want them to feel like they're being taken care of, that you're guiding them as we're going through the pricing process. And that middle volume, mid-tier, that one's a little bit dangerous to be in because we can get in a race towards the bottom, who can do it for the cheapest. So the more you focus on experience and work on making that memorable and a service-based thing for our clients and not just focused on what you're delivering, that's how we're going to get up to those higher dollar amounts. Because when we're looking at this, there's essentially three ways that we can make money in photography. So we can charge more money per client, we can have more clients, and we can reduce our expenses. If we do those things, we're going to be making more money. So we're going to be looking at how to get more efficient with this and help our price list getting there. So now here's the magic that you wanted to know. What is this pricing formula? How do I know how much I need to be charging on here? And you know what? It's not based on what your neighbors are charging. It's not based on what you think you can afford. It's not based on what you think your clients can afford. So this is the formula that we can figure out how much we need to be charging. So the math behind it, because I love numbers. Okay, so first thing that we want to do is figure out what your desired salary is. And this is basically how much money do you want to be making as the owner, as the photographer in your business. Okay, so I want you to dream up any number. It can be low, it can be high, anything that you want. We're figuring out how much money you need to make personally from your photography business. Okay, so for the sake of easy math, I'm going to say $40,000. Okay, so we've got that. That's how much I want to take home. So here's what we do. We write that number down, $40,000. That's what I want to take home. Next thing that we're going to do is multiply that number by 3 if you're a home-based studio or 4 if you're a retail-based studio. And this is based off of the PPA benchmark study that basically says this is the multiplier that you need to have in order to accommodate all of your cost of doing business, your cost of goods, cost of sales, taxes, all that fun stuff. If you are a home-based studio, multiply that number times 3. And if you're retail, multiply it by 4. For, again, the sake of easy math, let's say that we are a home-based studio and we're going to multiply that number times 3. So we have $120,000. So that's $120,000 a year in sales that we need to be making in order to take home $40,000. That's kind of a big number to try to wrap our heads around when we're trying to figure out how to price that 8x10. So let's kind of break that down even more. Let's divide that 120,000 by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So this is going to give our monthly sales goal. In this case, that's going to be $10,000 per month because 120,000 divided by 12 is $10,000. So this lets us know that we need to be generating $10,000 a month if we want to take home $40,000. But that's still a pretty big number, so let's break it down even more. I'm going to divide that by 4, which is the average number of weeks per month. And when we do that, we can say, okay, 10,000 divided by 4, that's about $2,500 per week. Now you might be questioning, say, okay, Chris, wait, there's 52 weeks in a year, and if we do 4 weeks, that's only 48. Why not divide it by 52? Well, the reason that we want to do that is I like to factor in a little bit of time off, maybe some downtime, vacation time, going to Imaging USA, conferences. You're not always going to be at full capacity. So if we average that, that gives us a few days off. So we've got about 4 weeks of downtime built into this, and our averages still work. So that's why I do it that way. If you plan on working all the time, delete the last 2 steps and just divide by 52, and you'll get what your number is. Okay, so we've got this now. We're at $2,500. We need to be making $2,500 per week. Okay, that's our number. $2,500 per week. If we can do that, we're going to meet our own personal goal of taking home $40,000 a year. Okay, so $2,500 per week. This gives us a number to work with. So now let's break that down even more so that we can start figuring out stuff. This is how many sessions do we need to be doing to hit that goal? We could do 1 session at $2,500, 2 at $1,250, 5 of them at $500, 10 of them at $250, 100 of them at $25. All of these will get us to our goal. Okay, they all add up that way. So we could spend our time with 1 client and have a $2,500 average, and as long as we're doing 1 per week, we're meeting our goal. We could do 2. So 2 clients that we're doing, 1 on Monday, 1 on Wednesday, getting them throughout, and we're hitting our goal. We can get in this middle ground. We can try to do 5 of them at 500 or 10 of them at 250. That's a little bit more challenging to do, but the numbers still add up. The downside that we're going to see in this middle section, remember when I warned you about that middle section before on being that mid-volume, mid-dollar? This is where we're at right here with this few $100s. This one, we have a lot of sales that we got to meet, and we have a lot of clients that we have to work with. So this is a lot of working time, which means you have to be pretty efficient in your business in order to make these ones work. You have to be doing a lot of volume, and you've got to be marketing on top of that, getting those clients in, fostering those relationships. So it's easy to get burnt out, overwhelmed, or miss your target numbers if they are this mid-volume, mid-dollar. So a little bit of caution there, but if you can pull that off, it totally works. The numbers work out. Finally, looking at those 100 sessions at $25 per session, this would essentially be like if we're going to go do sports portraits or we're doing school portraits and we have 100 kids come through or 100 employees for a company, we just have to do that 1 day per week. And as long as we have 100 sales at $25 per sale, we've met our goal. So that's what we're looking at in terms of figuring out how much money per session do we need to be doing. So kind of cool. That gives us a really, really good benchmark in terms of figuring out what our sales need to be. Because we know what our sales need to be, we can start crafting our price list so that we can achieve those, so that our clients will get an average spend from there. And the average means that not every client has to hit that number, but we need it the average. So if we have 3 clients, we take our total sales, divide by 3, and it needs to equal that number. So some might spend a little bit more, some might spend a little bit less, but on average, we need to be hitting that $2,500 per week goal. Okay, so let's keep diving in here and take a peek at pricing models. All right. So if we're looking at pricing models, meaning how we're going to be pricing our stuff, like what's the normal way of doing it? A few different ways that are on here, and let's explore those. First one up, the inclusive pricing model. Basically, this means that you charge a flat fee. So let's say it's $2,500 to shoot this wedding. And for that $2,500, they get absolutely everything. You're not selling them anything else. You're just getting your shooting fee, and you give them all the stuff that's from that. Also really common if you're doing shoot and burn stuff, or maybe you're doing like headshots, commercial photography in that realm. They pay a fee, they get the product, everybody's happy. Totally viable if you're hitting your goals. That's what we're after on that one. Next one that we see is a session fee, and then we sell them product in addition to that. So this is probably the most common format that we're going to see for professional photographers in the portrait realm. A lot of them in the wedding realm do this. Basically what we're doing is we have a session fee. So, hey, that's money for my time. You're not getting anything besides me showing up to do that. And then we sell them products afterwards. So this is a combination. The session fee plus the products that we have has to equal our average. So this is nice that let's say we have that $1,250 average and we have a $250 session fee. Okay, so $1,250, that's minus $250 for the session fee, and now we have $1,000 worth of product that we have to sell, and we're going to hit our average. So that's how that one works. Incredibly effective. It's what I use in my business, and a lot of other photographers use that model in theirs too. But let's look at the other ones that are out there. We've got a session and a license fee. So this is most commonly seen in the commercial world, where you're going to charge for your time to shoot it, and then you're going to charge for a license to use those images. So this could be like, okay, I'm going to charge you a fee to photograph your product, and then I'm going to charge you another fee for how you want to use that. That could be a length of time, that could be distribution. So, hey, you're going to use this on a magazine advertisement that's got worldwide publication, and there's going to be 100,000 copies of it going about. I would charge a licensing fee for that. Or maybe it's smaller and it's say, okay, I'm going to license out this. We did the shoot. You can use these images on your website for 2 years. That's what the license includes. So you've got your fee to shoot it, and we've got the fee to use it. This is most commonly seen in the commercial realm. And then finally, the other one that we're looking at is the product only. So we're not charging a fee for our services. We're only making that money off of what our product sales are. So this is most commonly seen if you're doing like fine art sales. So it's like, hey, I took this awesome picture. You want to hang it up in your home? Pay me for the picture. Doing stock images would work the exact same way. You're not getting paid to do the shoot. You're just selling the products afterwards. Or if you're doing volume stuff, hey, I'm going to photograph every player that's on the team, and anybody that wants to buy something can buy that. So we've got a whole bunch of different pricing models that are coming through here. Find the one that's going to work best for you. and then we can kind of go and expand from there. The following tips that we're going to go over now will apply to all the different pricing models. So there's not necessarily one right answer or wrong answer, but I'm going to be a bit biased towards the session fee and product sales because that's what I do in my studio, and that's what a majority of photographers do in theirs as well. So let's kind of look at that and dive into the psychology now. This is kind of exciting. So the psychology of pricing. So when somebody's looking at your price list, very first thing that they're going to be asking themselves, is this a good deal? I don't know. Is your pricing a good deal? Do people feel good about what they're being charged for your products? And, a lot of times we don't have necessarily anything to help guide us with what that number is. Most people don't have a ton of experience with professional photography. That means when they're looking at these numbers, they're going to be pulling off of things that they have experienced previously. And that might be pricing for like school pictures. So not necessarily senior portraits, but school pictures. They may have had senior portraits, depending on where you live. They may have done family portraits in the past. They may have been exposed to volume things like JCPenney's portraits, Olin Mills, that sort of stuff. They may be accustomed to having high-end products and services. So we don't know exactly what they're coming from, but most people don't have a great understanding of what the photography business is and how pricing works. So they don't know. They don't have any basis for determining, is this a good deal? Are they charging way too much? Is this a great value that's on there? So we have to kind of guide them, but this is what's going through their mind. And that's important that we know what's happening with their mind because we want to help them feel good about the pricing because that's how we get successful with these pricing lists. If somebody looks at it and they say, yeah, I'm okay with that, then we know that we've got a good deal going on. We've got a great relationship and no one feels like they're being taken advantage of, bamboozled, anything like that. So we want them to feel good about the pricing. So when we're looking at that, how do we determine if it's a good deal? Well, we use price as an indicator of quality when we don't know anything else. So if I were to have two products and they're just side by side, I'm going to go shopping on B&H's website. And I'm like, okay, these two things, I don't know what any of these technical details about them mean. I know that I need this product and one's more expensive than what the other one is. Which one's probably going to be a better quality product? The one with the higher price is what most of you are going to say. And you are absolutely correct on that. If we have two items and we don't know anything about them, we're going to assume that the one that's priced higher is better quality. This is universal that goes across. Like we like to say, okay, higher, more expensive stuff, going to be higher quality. I'm going to get more out of it because of that. So when we're just looking at general pricing, the things that are higher priced, we assume are going to be nicer than the things that are lower priced. And that works for individual products. But photographers that are higher priced are better than photographers that are lower priced. Think about that for a second. Okay, you know nothing about photographers, or your client doesn't. The ones that are charging more for their services, we're going to assume are better than the ones that are charging less for their services. I'm sure we all know those photographers out there, absolutely mind-blowing talent, and they're charging way, way, way too little for what their services are. And you know what? We know that they're undercharging for what their services are, but our clients don't necessarily know that. And so we can have this rock star photographer put right up against a photographer that's charging more money. And if we're just looking at pricing, which is what most consumers are using to evaluate the difference between a good photographer and a not so good photographer, they're going to assume that the more expensive photographer is the better photographer. And kind of an interesting thing happens when we do this because we're using this price as an indicator of quality. That when we charge more, our clients are going to trust us more. They're going to believe in our abilities more. And you know what? They actually enjoy the process more too. I think that's absolutely fascinating that they enjoy it and have more respect for you as the artist the more that you charge. In my studio, when I raised my prices, I was absolutely flabbergasted when I doubled my prices. I ended up having better quality clients that trusted me, trusted my process, didn't have as many complaints, weren't as nitpicky. They absolutely loved what I was doing and what I was helping them do. They trusted me more because I was charging more. I didn't magically the night before double my skill set. I had just raise my prices, and I ended up getting better quality clients. I think you'll find the same is true with you. So kind of an interesting thing to think about. It's like, okay, so now let's go and dive in more with this psychology. And the other kind of universal thing we're looking at is a paradox of choice, or paralysis of analysis. And basically what we're looking at here is that we can easily get overwhelmed if we've got too many options. If there's too many things laid out in front of us, we want to compare them all. We want to make sure we're doing what's right, what's going to be the best deal. But you know what? Sometimes that's counterproductive by offering so many different options. We look at things and we're like, I'm not sure what to do. I'm sure you've been to restaurants before. I know that like the Chinese restaurants that I go to, absolutely delicious food, but their menus, it's like 0.6 font and there's like 9 pages of it. It's way, way, way overwhelming. I have a really hard time deciding what I want to order there. It's the orange chicken. That's what I want to order, is the orange chicken. I know that one now because I don't want to get overwhelmed. It's like, nope, this is what I'm going for. Maybe sweet and sour. But we don't want to get overwhelmed with the amount of choices. The higher the end restaurant that you go to, you'll notice that you have fewer options. This is what we serve. This is what we do. Do you want it? Yes. And we feel better about those purchases. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're not providing too many options for our people. Otherwise, they're going to have a really hard time deciding. They're just going to be overwhelmed by what's going on with it. So we want to be mindful of that paralysis of analysis. Other thing we want to look at is that people want to feel normal. Okay, so this one is huge. Nobody wants to do things that are out of the ordinary, okay? We all want to be considered normal, do what everybody else is doing. We want to kind of go with the flow. And that is really, really important when we're looking at pricing and the psychology of pricing. This means that as we're listing out our stuff, people are going to tend to gravitate towards what's in the middle. Let's look at that wine list at the nice restaurant, okay? So we can have really, really expensive bottles of wine, and we can have really, really inexpensive bottles of wine. Okay, most people don't want to purchase the most expensive bottle of wine. Maybe for an extreme special occasion, but most of the time, no. Also, most people don't want to be considered cheap and aren't going to buy the very, very bottom bottle of wine. It's like, nope, I don't want people judging me for just going with what's cheap. Instead, they find something in between the middle two because they want to be normal. I want to be, hey, here's this range. I want to be in that midsection. Okay, so that's what most people are going to do. They want to feel normal. So if you have 3 packages, A, B, and C, most people go with the middle one. And so we can use this to our advantage too. We can have verbiage inside of our price list that says most popular. We can say this is a bestseller, what most people want to do. When we're talking with our clients and explaining this process, so we can say, hey, you know what? This is what most people do. Most people end up purchasing a piece of wall art, a collection, and maybe a few gift prints. That is normal. We want to reaffirm that normalcy, okay? Because people want to feel normal. We want to help them do that, and let's set up our price list so that they feel normal, and it helps our bottom line too. That's what we're after on this one, feeling normal and feeling good. Okay, continuing on, we got to say, okay, does it feel right? Does this pricing make sense to me? Do I understand why they came up with that number? Do I feel it's a justified number with it? And this one, we're dealing with fine art here, so it's really, really challenging to know, is that a normal amount with it? So we want to try to implement maybe a few different tactics here where we can get people to feel good about what that pricing is. Something that just clicks inside your head and say, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm good with those numbers. So let's look at how we can do that. First thing up is price anchoring. So you may have heard this one before, anchoring. And this is a universal human thing. We like anchors because it gives us a little bit of perspective in terms of what we should be paying, what we should be doing. So price anchoring basically says that we want to start out with a big number, a high price that gives people a little bit of perspective in terms of what the value is for everything. You're like, okay, what does that actually mean, Chris? What are we doing with that one? And basically what we're doing is we're giving them some context. So it's like if you go to a restaurant and you order a burger, okay? So in some places, paying $5 to $10 for a burger, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, okay, I feel good about that. Seeing a $20 burger then, that might seem a little bit high. However, If you're at a nice steakhouse and most of the stuff on the menu is about $75 or so, a $20 burger is going to seem like an amazing, crazy good deal, right? Okay, that's price anchoring. So when we're looking at it, if we have a lot of low-cost items that are there, we're going to assume that most numbers are a bit bigger than that, and they're going to seem more expensive. But if we have other stuff where they're all expensive items, the things that are lower price are going to seem like a great value, even though the price between those two things might be the same. This is where anchoring comes in. So how do we implement anchoring is the next question then. And with that, we just need to start it with a large number. So the first thing that they're reading gives them that context that like, hey, this place is going to be expensive. And this can be any large number that just kind of gets them in the right mindset for what it is. For the most part, the easiest way of doing this is to just list your top items first, or creating what's known as a Whopper package. I'm sure you've heard this term before. If not, Charles Lewis is where I first learned that one from. And basically with a Whopper, what we're doing is we're putting a big package together, or our highest end item, very, very first. We are not intending to sell it. We just want to say, hey, there's stuff that's up here that's expensive. Everything else is going to look less expensive once they've seen that big number. So for me, I've got a large piece of wall art as my very first number. It's thousands of dollars. Most people don't purchase that. In fact, if somebody's purchasing it, it's time to get a bigger Whopper. But they just see that thousands of dollar price tag. Now, everything else looks like it's a way better deal once they've been exposed to that. Let's say that we're in the wedding photography market. If you have your top package as a $10,000 package, a $3,500 wedding is going to seem really, really reasonable in comparison to it. So we're priming them with that $10,000 number. Everything else seems much more manageable once we get there. So this is what anchoring is, and that's how we do it with the Whopper on there. So I highly, highly recommend that we start implementing that. So along those same lines, we want to start with our higher prices first and work down low. So what does that mean? That basically means that we want to list our prices in descending order. So expensive stuff up towards the top, and then as we go, we work our way down. And let's talk about why we want to do this. What do we get out of doing this one versus starting with the least expensive and working our way up? And this one we play into another huge human bit of psychology, the fear of missing out, FOMO, fear of missing out. Basically what's happening with FOMO, so the fear of missing out, as we're going, we start with this great big one. Let's say that it's a $5,000 option that's on here. It's $5,000 print. Okay, I don't want to spend that much. Let's go down one step, and maybe we get a little bit less expensive. And two things are happening when we get less expensive, okay? We're getting maybe a smaller product, but we're also, and a smaller price tag that's coming across. So we're lessening quality and we're lessening the price. Every step that we do, we're doing that same thing. We lose a little bit of our quality, we lose some of our price. Every step we do down, we're missing out just a little bit more. And you know what? Humans don't like to miss out. We don't want to fear out. And so we're going to be tempted to stay up there. We're going to have a hard time going down each step because we miss out on something. What if I should have got that bigger size? What if I really needed that better finish? Okay, so as we go down, a little bit harder to go down the step. Now let's invert that. Let's say that we started with low prices up top and then we slowly get bigger. If we start with a low, we're like, okay, I'm at a low cost and I've got this small quantity that's here. Maybe it's a smaller print, something like that. Every step that I go up, I get a little bit bigger and I get a little bit better quality. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to a point where we feel pretty good with maybe what that price is and that balance that's there. It's like, I don't necessarily need to go up to that next level. I'm okay with where I'm at right now. We never had that higher quality before in our heads, so we're not missing out on anything. So if I want to go up to that next quality, I have to spend more money, and now I'm budgeting out some of that money. But if we start at the top and work our way down, yes, we're lowering the price, but we're also missing out on some of the cool features that you have to offer. So highly recommend that we start pricing that high to low, and we let the FOMO principle come in and help us as we're going. Let's do more. So how can we make our prices seem smaller? Fewer syllables. Make your pricing easier to say. This one's kind of fun. Basically, what we're looking at is use shorter words and remove commas. So I've got two prices up here. $1,788 versus 1,800. So 1,788. So that is what, 6 syllables versus 1,800. 4. Okay, so way smaller, way easier to say. So when people are looking at these things, if we have the comma in there, the 1,000 mark is now we're going to have to say the word 1,000. Okay, that's extra syllables. That means that it feels bigger, doesn't feel as good. 1,800 actually feels smaller than 1,788. Kind of weird, but hey, it works. Also within that same thing, if we can incorporate some rhyming or alliteration, okay, so basically make the price fun to say, we're going to feel better about it. So we're looking at 1329. That one's kind of weird to say. 1504, we got the 1504. That one feels more normal. Yeah, that's a good price. Or 2 for 200. Hey, we've got that alliteration, 2 for 2 that's going on. It's the reason why, like with Subway, remember when they used to have like the $5 footlongs? That felt like a great price on there. It's like, okay, a sandwich, yeah, $5. $5 footlong. It rhymed. It went really well. Worked super, super well. I think they could have been just as effective with it if they implemented $6 6 inches. I think that would work because that's also playing into that alliteration. It's fun to say. We say, oh yeah, it's $1 an inch. That makes sense for a sandwich, right? $5 footlong. Footlong, $5. They both go in there. So it's easy, it's fun to say, and we feel better about things that somehow make sense like that. Let's keep going on. So another thing that we can do is put the price in red. You're like, what? Price in red? Yeah, a study was done and found that when we're looking at prices in red, particularly in men, okay, that we're going to assume that there's a greater value. We assume that there's some sort of discount, some fancy stuff that's on there, and if it's in red, that means that it's a good deal. It's, again, one of these things, we don't really know what we're looking at, so we'll look for any contextual clues. Most of the time that you see something marked down or in red, we assume that it's a better deal than just its normal stuff. Okay. That one's kind of simple. We can do that one. Other stuff we can do, split unit pricing. So, okay, what's going on with split unit pricing? Basically what we're going to do, instead of having one large inclusive price for something, we're going to break it up into a little bit more bite-sized chunks. So let's say that we have an image, okay? And we might be going, and it's a $1,500 for this image, and it includes a frame. $1,500 might seem kind of big and scary. So if we break that up, so it's $1,100 for the image and $400 for the frame, magically that doesn't seem like as big of a number as $1,500, okay? We're getting it kind of smaller, feeling a little bit better about it just by breaking it up. So next one, Gary Box had mentioned this one when he was selling some of his sports portraits, that charging $100 for a sports banner, people were all sorts of arguing with him. Looking at this one, $35 to photograph him and $65 to print out the banner. We split that cost up. He said, hey, you know what? People are totally okay with this. And this goes over and over and over again. If you're selling albums, maybe you have a base price for an album and then you charge per image for inclusion in it versus charging a flat fee that includes everything. Break that puppy up and then start making it a little bit more bite-sized numbers. People are going to feel better about it than just having one large number coming through. And when we do have pricing that's on there, we want to make sure that we're raising them in small increments. So that means that as we go from one step in the pricing to the next step, that we want to have those little bit of baby jumps, okay? So if we're thinking about maybe like movie theater popcorn, okay? So if you're going to buy a small popcorn, it's like $6. But to get up to the medium, it's $7.50. And then to get to the large, it's $8. And that large comes with not only a tub, but a free refill too. Okay, so you're getting a lot more popcorn for it. Small numbers between that $6 and that $8 price range. But you know what? Because they're so close, you'd feel really, really dumb if you didn't get that big jumbo popcorn. You got not only more popcorn, but the free refill that comes in with it. Just a little bit more money, only 50 cents more than what that medium size is. Okay, so we've got a higher starting point that's on there, but small increments in between steps. It helps people a little bit easier to stay up a little bit higher. Oh, it's only a little bit more money. Yeah, I can do that one. I can do that one just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. So crazy, crazy effective as we're going through there. Okay, so now that we've got a foundation and some of these tactics that we can start using, let's look at the price list types. So these are the actual formats that we're going to see for our price lists. Up first, our universal one, I'm sure you're all familiar with this, packages. This is where we're going at for packages. So this is where we group things together. We have a price for getting that all-inclusive thing that's there. Second format we're looking at is a la carte. So everything that you're buying has a price on it, no discounts, no savings, anything like that for buying multiple things. Whatever you want, you buy it. And this is kind of what happens when you go to a restaurant or you stop by a store, you pick up a can of soup, this is what it costs. It doesn't matter if you're buying 1 or 10 of them. So you're buying whatever you want at the price that it is. And the third type, and the type that I personally use, is the create your own collection. So this is where we kind of combine the packages and a la carte formats. So we're going to be diving into each of these, and I think you're going to enjoy this. But up first is packages. So let's dive into that one and kind of look at what packages are and why we care about them. So the opportunities that we get with packages. So this one is best used with value-based things. So where we're really focused on the products that you're offering or the services that you're offering, the value that you get by grouping things together. So I really like to use these package type formats if you're doing things in bulk, if you've got a bunch of people coming through, because you know what? They're really easy to use. You don't have to explain it. People get it. I want package A, B, or C. We've got it. It's quick. It's uniform. There's no questions. This is what you're getting. So if you're sending out forms for parents to fill out because you're doing dance photos and they can choose what they want to buy, packages, man, that's where it's at. Super easy to use. No explanation needed. They know what they're getting. And it's so amazing if you're doing anything that deals with volume. So if your business model was that commodity-based system, packages are fantastic. Now, a little bit of disclaimer, packages can be used for other formats too. Let's say you're doing weddings, packages could be absolutely amazing for it. But if you're planning on doing upsells on things with your weddings, packages might not be as great. But if it's all inclusive, packages are going to be quite amazing for you. So now let's look at the challenges that come with packages. Why might not we want to use them? Big one is going to be that it's going to limit your sales. So my friend Brad Kanzler, he was at a wall portrait conference and he kind of brought up an idea that just stuck with me. I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. He's like, if somebody came in to your business and said, I have $10,000 to spend here, what can I spend it on? If you've got a package-based system, more than likely you can tell them your top package, and then in order to get up the rest of that money, you got to keep, okay, we're going to buy 4 or 5 of my top packages. That's how I can get to that sale. Like, that's kind of weird to sell that many of a package. So we have no ability to scale with it. So we're going to be limiting ourselves to what our potential top sale is based on what our package amounts are. So that may or may not be a factor for you, but it's good to know about. We also may run into people where the packages don't fit their needs. We don't have a one-size-fits-all type thing. So what if they don't have the wall space for a great big portrait, and that's included with your top package? Now you have to switch it out or figure out something on the run, or maybe they get a lower package because they didn't want the wall art. Maybe they want to swap something out. Maybe they'd rather have more small prints versus a great big one. Who knows? We've got now this potential additional hassle that we have to worry about. And it's not very personalized. So you're not providing that experience for your customers by guiding them into what's going to work best for their particular needs. So we lose a little bit of stuff as our guide in here. So be on the lookout for that one. So those are some of the challenges that we might see. But here's some kind of tactics that we might use if you are going to go forward with the package-based format. And the first one is using charm pricing. So you're like, what is charm pricing, Chris? Charm pricing is where we have the pricing in those nice numbers that seem like they're all pretty and fun. So like if you ever say, hey, you should have the 9 and reduce the left digit so it doesn't seem so big, that's where charm pricing comes in. And that's exactly what we're looking for in this one. So with charm pricing, instead of $50, we're going to go $49. Okay, so it feels a little bit smaller than it. Or we're going to do something that's convenient price, like 2 for $25. And this could be any number. I'm just picking these ones. The goal, though, is to keep that left digit smaller. And if we can reduce one of the right digits to make the left digit smaller, so like subtract 1 from 50 to get 49, that's where we're going to be at with charm pricing. When you are laying out your price list, you want to have your price on the top or on the left. What this is going to do is emphasize the price of your package versus what they get for it. And the value of that is that we're looking at dollar amounts to dictate what we're going to be doing. This is incredibly effective if we're doing volume stuff, like, say, headshots, or we've got our dance photos, anything like that, where we want to look at pricing and we'll say, yeah, I feel good with that pricing, and this meets my needs with what those products are. So we're putting a heavy, heavy focus on that. Other things that we can do that kind of feel a little bit more right with these price lists is try to figure it out so that if you've got numbers anywhere in your description on stuff, that the math of those numbers kind of works out. For instance, saying an 8 by 10 is $80, we can say, oh, 8 times 10 equals 80. Therefore, $80 for an 8 by 10, that seems right. That feels a little bit more normal. Or if, let's say we've got a grouping that we're wanting to do, you get 6 10-inch prints. Okay, it's $60 each. So we've just said, okay, 6 times 10 equals 60. So we're giving them numbers that they can kind of bite off. Those numbers make more sense. So that's what we're looking at on that format. So now looking at the actual creation of packages, a couple of faux pas that I see. A package doesn't necessarily have to mean a discount. So a package is just a grouping of stuff. I'm sure we've all been to restaurants where sometimes they have a meal where you can get the burger, the fries, and the drink, and they give you a special deal on it because you're making a meal. And we've all been to other ones where it says, hey, do you want to make it a meal by paying full price for fries and a drink? And they just add it in. That's kind of what we're doing here with packages. Don't feel compelled to discount them even further. You can just group them together for convenience. This is what most people need. Hey, you can buy this package. It's going to come with wall art or a wall grouping or an album. So we can get these things coming together. Don't feel like you have to discount it, though. That's just taking money away from you. I'd highly recommend doing packages with what you want to sell. Okay, so this one's like, oh, okay, it seems a little bit weird. Not necessarily what people want to buy, but what you want to sell. So include in your packages things that you want people to have. Maybe you've got a higher profit margin item. Maybe you have an item that's your signature look that you think everybody should walk away with. Maybe you like having collections. Start including some sort of folios or albums in those packages. So create packages of what you want to sell. And then finally, don't bundle expensive items with cheap items. So basically what this is saying is that if you have a $1,000 item, don't throw in a $5 item. It's going to cheapen the feel of the $1,000 item and make the package not seem like such a good deal. So try to keep packages of like or similar images. Price points, excuse me. So if you've got, hey, wall art and albums, those are pretty comparable on there. We're going to feel good about that one. So don't say, and you get this keychain or this Christmas ornament that's going to be way, way, way lower value. It's not going to feel like such a good deal. If you still want to sell those things, put those add-ons, novelty products, grandma products in a separate package. Say, hey, do you want to have the social kit that includes the maybe Christmas cards and the Christmas ornament and maybe some small prints that you can send out in your Christmas cards with your Christmas cards? I don't know. Something that's there, that would be a great add-on. Or having smaller things, more fun novelty products all grouped together in an add-on package that they can get in addition to their primary packages for their art. Separating those two things, again, we're breaking up, so numbers don't seem so big when we start adding in smaller things. We already looked at that from that first example, but kind of cool stuff that we can do. We're going to keep on flying, looking at package differences. The more that we can have small price adjustments between things, like that movie theater example that we talked about, the better you're going to be in this package world. Although it does work for everything, we particularly want to pay attention to that. Just a little bit more money and look at how much more stuff I get. Key takeaway from that one. Another kind of cool thing is similar yet expanded. So this was a weird study that was done, but I find it absolutely fascinating. So they were looking at selling a digital newspaper and or magazine. I think it was a newspaper. And in there you can get the print price that's there, and they had a dollar amount on it. I'm going to put this in our world and just kind of translate the story, but print price would be $75. Digital price would be $100, or for $100 you can get both the print and digital. So this one, we have the similar yet expanded on there. People see that digital price has a value of $100, so the digital plus the print has a value of $175. The fact that we can get it for $100 seems like a screaming deal. So nobody's actually going to buy the digital only. It's just there to kind of anchor stuff for us and seem like we're getting a really good deal. Kind of cool. If you are going to do discounts on your packages, we want to follow the rule of 100. And basically what this one's saying is that if your amount saved is under $100, then put it in a percentage. And if it's over $100, put the actual amount that they're saving. Basically, do what the bigger number is, and we're going to feel like we're going to get better quality. Can also have discounts on emotional products. So if there's something that they're thinking that they're maybe a little bit guilty about buying, discount that one, not the thing that they know they have to buy. So the large wall art, don't discount that one. Discount the brag book that they can get, or maybe the Christmas ornaments or Christmas cards or something there. They'll feel better about making those emotional purchases when they're on the things that are a little bit smaller. Other things looking at that, when we're listing those pricing, put the original price on the left and then the discounted price on the right. It's easier to do math with it. And just basically try to make it so that it seems like a better deal if we are going to do discounts. 85 down to 74. We've lowered the 8 and the 5. Now we've got lower numbers that are coming through. Feels better. Whew. Okay, into a la carte pricing. So with this one, it is an amazing opportunity if you have higher end products that you're selling. So higher end studios, I think this works amazing. And the entire focus is on the product and the experience, not on the price. Okay, price matters the least in a la carte pricing. There's no limit on the sales. People want to keep buying more, they can keep buying more. You can buy bigger, you can buy more quantity. You can do stuff, add more images on there. There's no limit to your sales. Really, really easy to use. This is how much it costs. No questions on it, no fancy math, anything like that. But it does have some challenges. It doesn't necessarily incentivize people to purchase more. So that means that a salesman is going to be required to help people find what they need, understand the differences between products, and understand what's going to be best for them. So it's a little bit more challenging. And price can be a determining factor in this one. That means as people are looking at products, they're going to have a budget they're going to stick with, and they'll buy within their budget, maybe a little bit more with the help of a salesman, but price is going to be a major factor. So if you're working with a highly affluent, this is amazing because price isn't that much of a factor in most median ranges. But if you're working with a less affluent clientele, then this might be a bit of a challenge because we're going to be limiting ourselves on our sales, not on what's most appropriate for the size of your artwork or the quantity, the products, the finishes, but rather what the price is. So just be mindful of that one. So looking at the pricing. Important thing to focus on the product, not on the price. This means that the price should be on the right side, the product on the left. Okay, we want to focus on that product. We don't want to have dollar signs on this because this isn't about the dollar that's on there, the cost. We want to draw less attention to it. Keep that font size really small because, again, it's more about the product that they're getting, not the price that they're getting with it. We want to focus on prestige pricing as opposed to our previous charm pricing that we looked at with packages. And basically this means that we want to use round numbers. So things that are pretty, things that we have pride with. So $1,000 versus $999. Okay, so we want to say, yep, I'm ever so proud of my $1,000 price tag on this one. We're not discounting stuff. We're playing into the price of stuff and saying I'm proud of what that is. Don't do discounts on these because you want to maintain that luxury brand, that luxury value that's going through. But if you do want to have a special or something that incentivizes people, add more stuff to it. Hey, with every wall art purchase that we do, we're including a digital for Christmas cards now. Or with every wall art purchase, we're including Christmas cards now. Or every wall art purchase will upgrade your frame to the next level, the next tier. Whatever it is, we can add in value that goes into these ones. Okay, and now my favorite that we're getting to, the create your own collection format. So this is what I use in my studio, and basically what we're doing is we're combining packages and we're combining a la carte. We're taking the good stuff out of all of it, and we're using our price list to motivate and incentivize our clients to actually purchase more. So amazing opportunities because we get the best of both worlds on this one. They're going to want to purchase more on it, and we've got tiered pricing that helps us get a minimum out of our sales so that we know that we're at least going to be walking away with a certain dollar amount from it, and it gives us a format to follow so you don't have to be a super skilled salesman to do this. You follow the format and it's going to take care of itself. It does have some challenges though that come with it. It can be complicated. Okay, it is complicated. You're going to need a salesperson to explain it. You're going to need to spend time with your clients so they get what you're doing and how it works. And this is not for every product line, okay? If you're trying to use this format and you're doing volume stuff, you're going to have a headache. If you're trying to use this format and we're doing it in some of the commercial world, it's going to be a giant pain. So determine if this is going to work well for you. But let's look at what the format of it is, because I think that's kind of fun. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to divide our product into sections. So we're going to have different product lines that we're offering. For me, that's wall art as one section, collections and albums as another section, gift prints as a third section. You could continue it on. You could have novelty products as another section, that sort of thing. And then we have a listing of that. So we have the price if you're just purchasing that product, and we have a price if you purchase one thing from each of those sections. So kind of cool on what that format is. And let me show you what that looks like here. So we're going to purchase one thing from each of the sections. I'm going to show you what this looks like right now. Okay, this is my pricing menu. So I've got my cover that's kind of explaining what's going on. I open it up. I've got section 1, wall art, right here. So they got to buy one thing from the wall art section. Section 2, I've got collections. They got to buy one thing from the collection section. And on the back, we've got the gift print. So they have to buy one thing from the gift print section. If they do, they're going to get a discount. Let's actually take a look on here so you can see what some of those are and how to read them. Here's my format in each of those pages. So we can see as we're looking through, particularly under like the display portraits, you can see there's the pricing in the center that's in the black, and then the package pricing on the right. So I explained to them if they get one thing from all 3 sections, then they get the price in the red. If they only want a specific product, so they're not getting one thing from all 3 sections, they pay the price in the black. The cool thing about this is that they want to save that money. They're like, oh man, it's going to be dumb for me not to do it. Kind of like that movie theater popcorn. Why would I not get that extra large popcorn? I'm throwing money away if I don't do that. That's what this price list is all about. It's getting those people cranked up and ready for doing stuff. So let's look at what we can do to make this the most effective thing. First one I want to look at is focus on the product, not on the price. Okay, so our product is listed on the left-hand side. We want to de-emphasize what the pricing is by doing our no dollar signs, keep the font small. So focus on the product. We also want to use precise numbers. Okay, so using like 1522 versus 1500. This is kind of a combination between that prestige and charm that's on there, but we feel better about more precise numbers, especially as we're starting to combine stuff. I'm keeping the math kind of hard for them. We're going to list those prices in descending order, starting with the high and going down the low, with minor price differences in between. So let's take a peek at that so we can actually see what this is doing. If I'm looking here, so I've got the dimensions on the left, how big it is. Notice that we're stepping down as we go through these from one size to the next, to the next, to the next. Small increments going down here. The pricing changes. The black, if they only want to buy wall art and they're not going to buy anything else, they're paying the price in the black. But if we get a piece of wall art, a collection, and a gift print, they pay the price in the red. Okay, so we're just stepping down one step at a time. We've got our Whopper starting up top, and then as we work down, the smaller stuff seems a lot cheaper, a lot less expensive. So kind of cool with it. If we are going to do discounts, which is what this is about, package it up to save money, have the original price on the left, and then the package price in the red and slightly smaller. It's going to feel better. So we want to try to have the discounted price, all the digits go down if we can. So with the hundreds, the tens, and the ones, try to get all of those a little bit lower. It's going to feel like a much better deal, and we're not going to be able to focus on the specifics of it as much. So they can't do that math in their head. They're like, oh man, I'm going to be saving money. I would be dumb not to do this. That's the exact feeling that we want them to have, is that like, hey, I am going to be missing out, fear of missing out if I don't take advantage of this. And let me tell you, this format works so well. Okay, let's go over a couple of FAQs now about how all of this stuff works now that we've been exposed to all of these formats. So first one I always get is when we're looking at the pricing, always base your pricing on the discounted price. So whatever the lowest price that you're going to be offering is. So let's say that it's $1,000 for your product for the a la carte price, and then the sale price is going to be $750. I'm just making these numbers up, but we're going with it. When you're figuring out your averages, it needs to be for the discounted price, not the a la carte price. Reason we want to do that is you're going to be selling it at that discounted price. So if the averages comes out lower than what your average needs to be with all of that, you're not going to have a good time on there. And if they only happen to purchase the a la carte, you've got that price increase, which helps offset your average. So kind of cool. Also want to make sure that you're updating your pricing frequently. Okay, so if you wait until you absolutely have to update your pricing, that's going to be big price jumps. Your clients are going to notice. Instead, if we do small incremental changes more frequently, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's every year, something that we're just small incremental, okay, people understand that like your product costs go up, your cost doing business is going up, your skill level's going up, you should be charging more. They're going to be okay with those small incremental ones. But if you suddenly double your prices, it's going to be a lot harder to keep those clients, okay? You can use incentives or gifts. You may have noticed that. If not, go back and rewind on the replay. That's a great way of getting people up to that next tier. So say, hey, if you spend whatever my average that I need it to be, you get a special little gift. Hey, that's totally okay. Get them. Give everything that you can to get those people up there. And most of all, experiment. So try out new things. I'm constantly tweaking, trying out different formats, different layouts. I go sometimes the hot dog style on this price list. I've tried it out in hamburger style. I've tried having a ton of different options here. This is a format I picked up from Bill Sorensen at one of his workshops, and it is incredibly effective. I've tried stripping it down, just the key sizes, but this one gets me higher sales, so I keep it with larger numbers. I experiment with how much of a discount to give. This one's about 20% discount on these ones when you go the package versus a la carte pricing, but play around. You're never going to know if something works if you're not experimenting, so make sure you're doing that. Whew, that was a whole bunch of information. If you do have questions, now is the time to put them into the chat. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video answering questions that you guys have because this is a recorded one and I'm not able to do it live. So type those questions in. I'll be able to see them, and then I will create a follow-up video as well as going over the discounts and the prizes and stuff that ACI has coming up. Hey everyone, thanks for your patience while I was away. The trip to Mexico was absolutely amazing. Maybe I look a little bit more tan in this video. Who knows? I had a great time, and I appreciate your patience with this format. And I've got some questions to answer for you, as well as some prizes from American Color Imaging to give away. But before we get to those prizes, let's start answering your questions. We only had a few of them, but we're going to dive into them and come up with some cool answers. So first one was from Yeti, wanting to know if we have a sample of the pricing list for you. Yes, we do. It is on the website, so acilab.com/let's-develop. And if you click on the Perfecting Your Price List little thumbnail, there's going to be a link there where you can download the sample, create your own collection list. So you've got that. You can use that as a base. Obviously change it with what your product offerings and how you do stuff, but at least gives you an idea of the format and how things can look, so you don't have to try to pause the video and review everything there. Robert had also mentioned that there was a lot of information, but it went by really, really quickly, maybe a little bit too fast. I'm a fast talker. Sorry for those of you in the South. But the nice thing is that you can replay this video as well as the original presentation, and you can pause it in between moments. That way you can make sure you're getting those elements that you need, and you can go back and rewind or possibly even change the playback speed so it's a little bit slower. We only had an hour, and I wanted to cram it full of information so that you're getting the most out of these webinars. So sorry about that, Robert, but we do have some tools to help you with that, as well as the ability to go back and replay. Next one, comment from Steven saying that your price list looks way too complicated. And you are absolutely correct, Steven. It is a complicated price list. However, it is set up so that it generates sales. So that was one of the big downsides to the create your own collection format, is that it is complicated. And it has to be complicated in order for it to do its job. If your only goal is to have ease on it, your package is going to be the easiest, most straightforward format. If you want simplicity, then your a la carte format makes it really, really simple. If you want something that's going to be selling for you and psychologically encourages your clients to spend more money, then we do have to have that complicated format. So you're going to have to balance out what works best in your format. I personally chose to have one that's a little bit more complex, but it does help increase my average. You can obviously scale this back too, so instead of having 15 or so different items for like wall portraits, you could have 4 or 5 different sizes. The format still works. I found that having more of those increased my averages, so I have more on that list. But you may find something else works better for your particular situation or your preferred selling style. So use this as inspiration. Don't feel like you have to be locked into duplicating everything that I do. Use the tactics, kind of pick and choose from everything and choose what works best for you. That is another thing that I've heard privately, not in the online comments, but from other people that have seen it. You do not have to follow every one of those suggestions in this program. There are more tools, things that you can work with and implement in that. So if you're trying to use all of them, you're going to be way overcomplicating what the process is, so don't feel that you have to do that. Instead, figure out the ones that work well for you and kind of jive with your system and embrace those ones. It's better to use just a few of them versus trying to use all of them is kind of the point of that one. Had a question for Connie. Instead of having people choose one product from each column, would you suggest a discount of a certain amount based on spending? For example, just off the top of her head, spend $800, get 5% off. Spend $1,500, get a 10% discount. So Connie, I would not recommend that format. And the reason is that we are focusing on the price that they are spending in order to achieve those discounts. So they have to spend $800. That $800 is locked into our head just to get a 5% discount. For most people, 5% doesn't really seem like it's worth it too terribly much, especially if we're trying to get them to come up tiers. If we use the rule of 100 now, so that 5%, instead of being 5%, which doesn't seem like very much, we could say save $40, which is 5% of $800, if I did my math right. $40 seems better than 5%, so that's a start on how we can incentivize it. But if we have the one thing from each section, they're going to be looking at those price differences, get a little bit jumbled up in the math, and work overall with higher sales than saying you just get a discount for it. Now, you can use that discount approach if we need to change their behavior in other ways. This isn't necessarily price list specific, but can be part of your sales process. For instance, let's say that they are not going and taking photos of their walls so that you can do room view. We want them to do it, but they're just not doing it. Perhaps offering a little bit of an incentive like 5% off your final bill if they get this returned to you within 3 days. Hey, that's an idea where we can use a percentage-based system to do that. Maybe it's a 5% discount if they purchase and have all the decision makers ready at the time of your preview. Or maybe you've got a slight discount. Hey, is your TV hooked up with an HDMI cable ready if you're doing in their home previews, all ready to go? If so, you get a discount for it. So reward their behavior, good behavior, by offering some sort of incentive like that. But using that as a format for your primary way of what the price list is formatted is ultimately going to end up with them focusing on the price more than what on the products are. So that's probably going to be counterintuitive towards getting the higher sales. So I would highly recommend that you explore other formats versus just having that system. Now, that's not to say that you can't reward or use an additional way of increasing the sales by offering incentives like that. Hey, if you spend $800 or $1,000, then you're going to get some sort of bonus that comes through. So not necessarily a discount that comes off your price is a way of motivating them, but just that little bit, be like, hey, get a free brag book or holiday cards or something if you meet a certain threshold. If you look on my price list at the very, very back page on the bottom, I definitely have that incentive list, bonus rewards, so that they can get that extra little punch up if they need it. So it just helps the people that are on the fence on things just go up a little bit more. Yeah, I should get that bigger size, or I can get another print, or maybe I'll get the nicer album, or add a few more images to it just to get me to that next threshold. But that comes very, very last after we've already decided on purchasing those 3 things. So we want to make them feel like it's normal to purchase those things. That way we get our sale. And it becomes normal when we assume that it's normal and people want to behave normal. It's a lot of normal stuff. I don't know. Question from Jenny. Would like to know more about how I experiment with my price lists. So this is just a whole bunch of trying random things and seeing what works. So I will go through and I'll change pricing to see if maybe people respond to certain numbers better than others. I will play with the format, the sizing of the pricing, the color of the pricing, how many options that I offer. So like with the wall art, there's quite a few options that go down. I've tried narrowing that down just to grouping. So like, hey, I've got the great big stuff that's going to go like above the couch. I've got smaller accent pieces. I found that one worked pretty well with seniors, but not so much with families or like my pinup stuff. And so I had more listings, and the more numbers that I have, the more people gravitated towards the middle of those, which are kind of biased towards larger sizes. And so I prefer the more frequent numbers and sizing options versus them grouped into bigger ones, which looks simpler. But then people stuck towards the small and the one up from the bottom, the extra smalls, versus going up to stuff that's a little bit more adequately sized. So again, they were just looking at what the middle was, and so I added in more steps so that the middle kind of goes into my favor. I also experiment around with the layout, the formats that I do when people come in, so how I greet them, if I have snacks, if I don't have snacks, if my dogs are present. I try to look for all of those things and continually tweak to see what's working, what's not working. I played with the vertical pricing list format where it's in hot dog style versus hamburger style where it's folded. I found that the vertical ones, hot dog style ones, seemed a little bit more eloquent and made better spacing on the price list. So that was an experiment that I did, and I had more success with the hot dog, so I stay with hot dog now. So I just, any variable that I can think of that might be worth trying, I'll experiment. Like, I'm just printing these out on my laser printer, so I can print it, I can try it. If it works well, say, hey, I'm taking note from that. And if it doesn't, I get rid of it. I also go through and experiment and see what loopholes people find. So like on my gift print pricing, I've got the price of the print that's on there and then a discount for ordering that print. Seems pretty straightforward. Everybody follows the format. We're good. Until I had a client that didn't. They were like, oh, I'm just going to go with all 5x7 prints. It's okay. They ordered a ton of them, almost every image in a 5x7, and they paid the regular price because they didn't get one thing from all three sections. But that's when I realized that my individual prices for the gift prints were way too cheap. I did never expect anybody to only order gift prints from a session. And when they did, it's like, okay, I need to take note of that, and I need to change that format so that that does not happen again. My average for that session was way down low. It was something that I had never experienced before. I learned from my session and I adapted afterwards so that that situation does not occur again. So that's the sort of experimenting that I've done, and I hope you experiment quite a bit too. See what people enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what adds to your session, and what takes away from it. And you should continuously be tweaking and modifying so you can experiment and see what's going to work best for you and your particular situation. So next question, last one that we had was from Samantha asking, Chris, have you ever used a create your collection that's basically just a printed artwork credit? I have one collection that's X dollars and you get all the digitals. She shoots seniors. Plus $2,500 in printed artwork credit. Reason I'm asking this, if I'm wondering how the sales average would compare for this model versus the one that you currently use. So Samantha, the main question that we're looking at here is what is our average going to be? So if we've done our math correctly, we know what we want our session average to be. The goal is to get that session average or higher, right? So it doesn't matter the format that we use to get that as long as we are meeting our session average. So that's the big important thing. If you find that having a higher point of entry, so they spend that X amount of dollars and they get a print credit that they get to spend however they want, as long as we're meeting our average, that is totally good to do because we're meeting our average and that's what we care about per client. That's why we do all this math and how we're figuring out stuff. The one downside to that format is that you've got a high point of entry, meaning that they have to spend that much money which meets our goals, but we have to find clients and try to welcome our clients in and let them know they're going to be spending that amount of money. That's a pretty big commitment, and you may find that if you don't have a well-established reputation or getting a lot of referrals coming in, that could be kind of scary, and it's a little bit harder to get someone started. So with the Create Your Own collection, we've got a lower perceived point of entry. Somebody could just walk away with something that's on the smaller end, although most don't. So that one's a little bit easier to get people to come in and try it because there's less of an upfront commitment. In yours, with a minimum average where they get that print credit, they've got a higher point. So if you're not having trouble getting clients, that might be absolutely perfect because you've just 100% guaranteed that everybody's going to spend at least your average, if not more, because they're going to want more than just what their print credit is. But if you're struggling to get people to come in, or you need a little bit more help to make it friendly for that point of entry, then consider switching to a format which lowers that initial point of entry. It's kind of like the lower session fee, get clients in, you make more money during the sales, versus having a higher session fee, maybe a little bit more inclusive, but we're going to get fewer clients coming in. So balance out and see what's going to work best for your format and your marketing techniques with that one. Whew. So those were the questions that we had. We've got some prizes to give away now coming up from American Color Imaging. So first up, we've got a $50 lab credit. So this is a $50 credit coming from ACI. So let's go to our fun wheel and see who that winner is. And we're going to spin, spin, spin. And Karen Fox, congratulations. You've got that $50 credit. Very, very nice. So we're going to go up and we're going to get our next one. Let me make that a little bit bigger. There we go. And we've got a $75 lab credit now to American Color Imaging. And the winner of the $75 lab credit is Lila. Congratulations. All right. And now we've got our grand prize. This one, thank you so much, ACI, $100 lab credit. That's going to come in so handy with all of our holiday stuff coming up. $100 lab credit. Let's see who that winner is. And it is Deborah, DJ. Congratulations, Deborah. That is awesome. I know you're going to enjoy getting some of your fine art prints on there. We were just chatting about that earlier, so this is a nice little bonus, huh? So just a reminder that there is also a special going on with ACI right now. You can get 30% off of one of your Flex orders. Just use that code that was sent out in the email immediately following the presentation. So I'll email that one out as well. That does expire on the 12th, so make sure you're using that special code and get 30% off of one order with your Flex system. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on this special episode. A little bit of a two-parter where we answered some of your questions because I wasn't here live to answer them. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on another episode of Let's Develop. And thank you, American Color Imaging, for making this show possible. And just a reminder that if you do have ideas for future episodes, content, you want to be a speaker, anything like that, shoot me an email, hello@cwooley.com, and let's start talking on that one. All right, everybody. Thank you so very, very much, and have a great day.